What is up, everybody? I'm Johnny Blacklight Bro, and today we're going to be getting into some Dogman encounter stories that I found over on TikTok. So without further ado, let's get into them.
A woman from the Rio Grande Valley sent me this story after hearing one of my videos about a Dogman sighting. Now, there's no way for me to verify any of this, so as always, this is for entertainment purposes only. So she said her husband was a truck driver, and years ago another driver told him something so bizarre that neither of the men that were involved would ever talk about it for nearly 20 minutes after the incident had occurred, because neither of them wanted to be the first person to say what they knew that they had both seen, and they didn't want to sound crazy. So this story takes place on I-35 between Laredo and San Antonio, Texas. Two truck drivers were traveling northbound, and it was really late at night. I don't even think there was anybody really on the road, and the lead truck was a few hundred yards ahead of the second driver, who was following behind him. Now, both men were talking occasionally over their CB radios as they drove through a particularly empty stretch of highway. They were really close friends, so it was something that they did to kind of keep them awake at night. Now, at some point, the driver in front noticed what looked like a large dog running alongside the median. And it wasn't unusual at first. There are plenty of stray dogs or even animals in general, in Texas. But this thing was keeping pace with them. And the closer that he got, the bigger it got. And he later described it as being much larger than any dog that he's ever seen. And then, without warning, it suddenly launched itself onto the roadway. The lead driver was expecting to hit it, and the second driver slammed on his brakes, convinced that he was about to watch this massive collision and what was about to happen right in front of him. But the animal didn't run across the highway, it flew across it. The thing leapt from the median and cleared both northbound lanes in a single jump.
That's so wild.
It didn't scramble, it didn't hesitate, didn't barely make it. It cleared the entire roadway effortlessly and landed on the far shoulder. The lead driver was so shocked at what he had seen, he couldn't even react in time. The animal touched down only moments before he had ended up passing it. And that's when he caught a glimpse of it, of what this thing actually was. Because as it landed, it started standing up. Not like a dog, rearing up to take off or, launch itself, whatever. It stood up like a human on 2 feet. The lead driver only caught a split second of it, but the second driver had a perfect view, and he watched the creature rise completely up onto two legs. He said it was very tall, broad shoulders, covered in dark fur, and its arms hung down at its sides. Very common for werewolf or dogman sightings. And its head slowly turned to watch the trucks pass by. He said it looked like a massive humanoid dog. Not a bear, not a coyote. They're very familiar with those types of animals. He said it was not like any animal that he had ever seen before. Just standing there, watching them as they passed by. And then the darkness swallowed it up as they kept going. Neither driver said a word over the radio for nearly 20 minutes as they just sat there in silence, unable to really comprehend what they had just seen. Finally, the driver in the rear keyed up on his microphone, and he asked the simple question that they were both thinking: did you see that? And the lead driver paused for several seconds before replying, and he said, "You tell me what you saw first." One of those, if you go, I'll go type of deals. And the second driver described everything that they had just seen. The jump, the way it stood up, the shape of its body, the way that it turned its head and looked at them. And when he finished, there was another long silence between them. And then the lead driver quietly just said, "That's exactly what I saw." Now, neither man wanted to say the word out loud because they didn't want to sound crazy or, whatever, but they both knew it. And eventually one of them finally spoke up about what they were both thinking. And he said, "Dude, was that a werewolf?" And the other just answered, "I don't know what it was, but I think you're right." And years later, both men still reportedly told the exact same story. Nothing changed, no details ever changed. It stayed the exact same for all of these years. And according to the woman who sent this to me, sightings of large dog-like humanoids have been reported throughout parts of South Texas, for decades, especially around isolated highways and ranch land near the Rio Grande Valley. Whether it was a dogman, a werewolf, or something else entirely, two experienced truckers And guys that have been driving for years saw this at the exact same time and saw the exact same thing. And neither of them ever found a normal explanation for what crossed that highway that night. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Dude, that's what's so wild about these things to me is just like, for one, the sheer size of them and just the effortless agility that these things seem to have and how they can just leap for feet and just feet up into the air. It's just so wild, man. I feel like that adds even more horror to, encountering one of these things, where it's less of like a big lumbering Sasquatch type creature and it's just, super agile and just flying around the place like that, man. That's just so scary. Interesting story here too with this one, with two people seeing the same sighting and having pretty much the exact same recollection of what they both saw. South Texas Dogman, dude, super crazy, man. I couldn't imagine, man, just driving along like that and just seeing something like that come flying over the median like that. Man, that's wild.
I had a guy on the show from Kentucky who said that when he was a kid, him and his grandfather would go raccoon hunting. He'd go out at night with the dogs. And they go out into the Daniel Boone Forest. And his grandfather's at the point now where he physically can't get out anymore. So he drove the truck, he parked it, they had radios. So he's going through the woods. The dogs get on a trail. They tree a coon. There's two dogs. Jake, the older dog, which was a legendary hunting dog in the area, and then Bo, which was a younger dog that was being trained. So as he's trying to catch up to the dogs, they're off in the distance. You just hear them barking.
Right.
He hears these coyotes coming in. And his grandfather gets on the radio and said, "You better get to the dogs before the coyotes do, or else it's going to be a bloodbath."
Yeah.
And so he's trying to get there as fast as he can. And he hears the coyotes come in. There's this fight. And he hears his younger dog, Bo, run away. And when Bo runs away, his older dog, Jake, he said, sounded like he held down the spot where the raccoon was in the tree because these dogs run off. And he said that they came in like one by one, though. He said it's like they regrouped and they came in together and they started attacking his dog, Jake, and they started beating up on him. And then all of a sudden he hears Bo come back and the fight changes and they run off and he comes and he sees Jake barking at the tree again. Just, he calls it chopping down a tree with the barks, you know? Yeah. And so he goes over and pats Jake on the head, good boy. And he hears Bo on the other side of the tree chomping down on a coyote. And so he's like, this dog's turning into a great hunting dog. Let me go over there. So he goes around the tree to congratulate his dog on a good fight. And he realizes that that's not his dog that he thought came back. He said what he was looking at was the biggest dog he's ever seen. He said, I am very, very familiar with the woods, the people in this area. I know everybody's dogs. I've never seen this dog my entire life. And as he's standing there, probably from me to the wall from this dog is right there, he's contemplating how large this dog is. And he said it was so big that it was holding the rib cage of a coyote by its mouth. So like he has the rib cage in its mouth.
Insane,
the
man.
dog
That's crazy.
stops and sees him and looks up at him. As it locks eyes with him, he said, this is where everything changed to, it's like a bad dream. He said the dog stood up on its hind legs.
Dude.
And in his mind, he said,
the coyote in its mouth.
Well, I don't know if it dropped. Maybe he dropped it at that point.
Yeah.
But he said in his mind, he's like trying to rationalize. He's like, this isn't happening. All right. Stood up on its hind legs and it's leaning against the tree. And he said, then it took a step towards him, and then he took off running.
Man, that is horrifying, man. Straight out of a horror movie, man. I couldn't imagine coming up on something like that. And just the fear that you would feel from that, man. That's just insane. One theory is that these things are, in fact, fear eaters, and they kind of feed off of your emotion of fear. I've heard a lot of stories where people are being chased by these things, and it's pretty much able to get them, but just doesn't, and it's just scaring the ever-loving crap out of them. And maybe that's all it really needs, man. Who knows? But just to see something big enough to have like a coyote's rib cage in its mouth like that, and then to watch it stand up and step towards you, oh man, I'd definitely be doing the same thing, turning around and getting out of there as quick as possible.
Bet you've never heard a Dogman story quite like this. This story was submitted by one of my followers, and this happened to her in the 1980s in a California town called Canyon Country. To paint you a picture of what happened that day, she said that she, her aunt and uncle was very close in age to her. They were all young children, probably younger than 10 years old. But they were at her grandparents' ranch. And she said, now you have to understand the ranch actually has about a quarter mile of a driveway from the actual road to the ranch. So, you have a pretty good distance between the roadway and the actual home place. It was starting to get dark outside, and she and her aunt and uncle, they were in her grandpa's horse corrals that he was in the process of building. At some point, she said she just happened to look down this driveway, this very long quarter-mile driveway, and at the very end, close to the roadside, she said she seen 2 red lights. And she automatically thought it looked like a car that was pulling out. It looked like the taillights. Then she noticed that if it was a car, it was going in reverse because the red lights were actually getting closer instead of going away. About 18 to 20 feet away from where they were at, she said on the right side of the road, of the driveway, there was a goat corral, and on the left side of the road, there was a cow corral. So as she is focusing on these red lights getting closer, she actually begins to make out details. She said this thing is flying. It isn't a car. It's a beast-looking thing. It doesn't have wings, but it is flying through the air, and then it lands in the road between these 2 corrals. This thing landed in the middle of the road and then stood up. She said it was very tall and had the body of a man, but the face of a wolf. Its eyes were just this piercing, glowing red, but she said it never did make any kind of facial expression and never showed its teeth. She said there was just this immense amount of fear and dread that just filled the air, that all of the children just took off in a sprint toward the house to get her grandpa. Time he came back out, it was gone, and they said a lot of neighbors reported similar events. If you've experienced anything like this, let me know in the comments. Have a great day, and God bless.
Dude, sounds like that thing was literally farming fear off of these people, man. Just making its presence known like that and just scaring the crap out of everybody around, man. That's insane. And to imagine it just like flying in like that. Again, the agility of these things, like it just took this huge leap towards them to the point where it looked like it was literally flying. Again, man, I could not imagine running into something like this, man. That's just unimaginably, insanely scary. This is a bit of a different one too, because usually you hear accounts of it like showing its teeth and like the size of its teeth and stuff like that. This one, they said it didn't even have its mouth open. It was just the red glowing eyes and the height. Man, even then, just still unimaginably scary. But yeah, man, let me know what you think of the Dogman stuff, man. Very interesting to me. Like I said, the fear eater aspect I think is a really cool theory and interesting one to look into. And just the agility and speed and size of these things, man, it's just so scary. To me, that's what makes it one of the most scariest cryptids out there. So yeah, man, let me know in the comments what you think of the Dogman, or if you have any personal Dogman story experiences yourself. I would totally love to hear any stories or sightings that may be possible Dogman, or any other cryptids. Let me know. But the Dogman is definitely my favorite so far as of right now, so I'm totally interested to hear anyone's stories about that. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for the video. Just wanted to jump on and share these stories and give a little insight and talk about them a little bit. Let me know what you think in the comments. Y'all have a good one, and I'll see you next time.